We had 10,000 active signups now, and
Mm.
that results in our open rate being in the high 30s and healthy, which gives us the best shot of landing in someone's primary inbox.
Welcome, builders, to How Would You Build It? The podcast that dives deep into the dynamic world of startups and product creation right here in South Africa and Africa. This show is more than just interviews. Every week, we sit down with the brilliant minds to provide a masterclass for building digital products amidst the challenges and opportunities unique to our continent. From seasoned founders to dynamic product managers, we uncover the unique stories and strategies behind some of the most innovative digital products being built. So for all the aspiring founders and product builders out there, you'll discover that each episode is a wealth of practical wisdom and local and actionable insights. Make sure to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to our podcasts and connect with us on social media for even more content. Now, let's dive into today's episode.
All right. Hello, builders. Welcome to another episode of How Would You Build It? We've got a bit of a special episode today because we are celebrating 10,000 subscribers with the open letter. So we're going to have a special episode dedicated to the open letter with my co-host and the founder and ideas man of the open letter, Renier. Good morning. How are you doing?
How's it, Bobby? Normally we have people that are really successful on here, so we're breaking the rules a bit today. But we do have 10,000 people that are getting the newsletter twice a week and reading it. So
I would say it's pretty successful, Renier. Don't hold yourself down. I think it's pretty successful. I mean, whoever I talk to on the street, whoever I'm meeting, everyone's got such great feedback about the product that is the open letter and all the content that we are providing within it. So I don't think you should hold yourself anywhere short. Doing a great job, and I think it's quite needed. And maybe we could just start there. And I know we've had a few conversations with some of the guests around why you started the open letter, but do you just want to kind of remind us, like, what was that brainchild and what was that gap that you wanted to fill?
Yeah, so it was really a culmination of a lot of different events, Bobby. So at the time, well, let me go back a few years. Like when I started working in the startup tech business space, I always had this thing where I felt like there wasn't one single place that had all of the information, insights, updates of what's happening in the local space. And whilst overseas you can find a lot of cool sources like TechCrunch, etc., that featured what's happening in Silicon Valley and the broader American market, there was never really something locally that was like a one-stop shop. Now, at times, Venture Burn had great content and some other publications, and some of them still do. But I always felt like it wasn't really tailored for me in the work that I was doing. And I realized also the people that work with me and the people I worked with, being other businesses, they also had a need for this. So I was walking around with this for years, and then it was about 3 years ago I signed up for a newsletter called The Hustle, which was a newsletter by Sam Parr, which he eventually sold, a daily newsletter, which he eventually sold to HubSpot for $27 million. And the first time I read The Hustle, I really resonated with the style and tone and the way it was presented. And it was really a combination of seeing how someone can use email as a medium to really engage audience in a fresh and creative way. And then also, thinking for years, we need something that can consolidate this startup tech business innovation space in South Africa, get everybody together, and leading with something that's of value to those people is something I think people have missed in trying to build communities and trying to build or bring people in the space together. So we set out building the newsletter simply to do that, to add value to the ecosystem. And as it grows, figure out how we can continue to add value and eventually build a business out of it.
Yeah, I think, Renier, I think of a story that you told me when we first started chatting, regarding how you guys kickstarted it. You told me it took about 3 months for you guys to try and figure out how you're going to go about it, and then eventually said something that all founders say is just start. Can you just tell us about that story?
Geez, it might have been longer than 3 months. So I obviously don't have a writing or journalist background. In fact, I was pretty bad at writing essays at school, so I never really figured I'm someone that should be writing about things. So I think I lacked the confidence and the motivation in the writing department to actually just go. So we were topping the idea, and I was chatting to Jason at the time, one of the co-founders, and we're trying to figure out what is the right way to do it. And then out of the blue, an old friend from school, Al Vaughan, reached out to me and said he wanted to catch up. So we haven't spoken in 15 years, and we spoke about a few things he was doing in work. And then I pitched the idea of the newsletter, I think in 5 minutes, and he didn't ask any questions. He's like, he loves it. Okay, let's do it. And I think about 2 weeks later, we sent out our first email. So I needed that confidence of someone that was a journalist and working in the writing space for 20 years to just come and tell me it's fine. Just give me what you want to write. I'll help you. And then, you know, we kickstarted it, and we literally started by begging friends and family to please sign up. And we set out a target that we wanted to start. I sent our first email to 100 people. I think we had 112 for our first email. So we hit our first objective, which was great. But I also knew, like, once we start, like, one of the most important things in building a business like this is consistency. Like you set a date and a time, like if it's weekly on a Tuesday, you know, at 10 a.m., you always send it weekly on a Tuesday because you want to create cadence with your readers and kind of become part of their day and their habit. It's like, you know, in the olden days, if you were to get a newspaper delivered to your house, like if they skip a few days a week, I mean, you'll never develop the habit to actually go and sit and read the thing. And if people don't read it, well, what's the point? So once we started, we knew we were going to have to do it, and we've been going ever since. We've never we take a break over Christmas and New Year's, but other than that, we never miss a week where we don't send out emails. So it's been fun.
So that's great, because you kind of speaking to the next question I had for you, which is, what strategies or lessons have you learned that's kind of spoken to the success? So consistency is one, and we know that when it comes to content creation, it is about consistency. But what other strategies? Because I mean, growing something is very difficult, right? And I mean, we're not asking for payment, right? It's a free newsletter. Just come sign up and we're going to give you loads of value. So in that model, what other sort of strategies, tactics have you used that you feel has kind of played to the success of its growth to where we are today of 10,000 subscribers?
I think firstly, the most important thing that we didn't really understand when we started, but we learned as we went along and as we saw engagement increase and getting feedback, is that email is quite a unique medium. Thinking back now, it was quite evident that, you know, Sam Parr at the Hustle, or even the guys at the Morning Brew, they really understood how to use email in a much more engaging way. And initially, we simply just copied a lot of what we saw other places. But as we went on this journey, we really understood and the value of using email as a medium for engagement, rather than just, you know, what we've all come accustomed to, how companies use email, which is here's my catalog, come buy some stuff, or here's the 5 articles on my website today, which is an absolute waste of time. Which, by the way, when I speak to people about I have an email newsletter, what they think is, they think that's what it is. It's I just send articles, you know, like a lot of publications in South Africa do. But email as a medium that is your first and primary medium, if you think about it, like, Robbie, if I send you an email, like, how would I do it? I will do it conversational. I'll address you in your first name. I'll maybe add a joke or two. I'll go to a level of technical depth which I think you would understand, because I want you to understand something. So it's really about thinking about that audience and writing and engaging in a way which they can relate and connect with, right? Because if they can relate and connect with it, they'll obviously engage with it, and once they engage with it, they get value from it. So that's really been a big learning process, how to use email in a way to do that. Also, you know, we've discovered things more accidentally. The other things we discovered accidentally, we started adding a poll as just a fun way to generate more content. Like, you can vote every week on some interactive poll.
I love the poll.
Know, eventually, we eventually introduced humor into it to also make it content in itself. So if you give funny options for people to vote for in a poll, you know, that's content in itself. But then about 2 months ago, we started seeing when you vote on a poll, you can actually add a comment as well. And a substantial amount of people added comments, right? And we felt, well, what a great way to close the loop, that we start adding these comments in our future newsletters. So when we publish the results of the poll, we'll actually add these notes. And then, without realizing it, if you think about it, long ago in magazines, they had these sections in the beginning of the magazine where you can write to the editor and then they'll reply. They'll feature what you wrote. And I mean, you literally sent them a letter, and And it's pretty much the same mechanism. It's closing the loop between writer and reader. And it used to do it for the magazine space, and now we're doing it in the email space. And so all of those fundamentals actually remain. And I find it fascinating, actually, if you think about it, that, you know, magazines went to PDFs online. Like now you can read your huisgenoot or whatever in a PDF or whatever reader online. But it never took or it went online in terms of it's now a website, but it never went to email, which was probably the most obvious place for it to go. That intimate one-on-one connection. I mean, when you read a magazine, you don't read it with other people. You sit on a couch and it's you and a magazine. It's quite a You know, it's in a sense an intimate connection. But websites is not the same, right? Because if I read something on News24, I know the whole world's reading this. This isn't something written for me specifically. You know, it's almost like a billboard versus a personalized ad. You know, there's serves two different purposes, does two different things. So email is the most, you know, makes the most sense in terms of that similar kind of engagement which one used to get from a magazine in the past. So that's quite interesting. As we built out our social, also learned that the social algorithms is ruthless in the sense that it wants businesses and companies to pay to be seen.
Yeah.
And it promotes individuals' content because that generates engagement on the platform. So, you know, building your audience on a social platform as a brand is a no-go. I think you should definitely build it in your personal capacity, because it won't be in their interest to cut you off personally, because you create engagement for them, which leads to ad revenue. But as a brand, you know, it's not a medium that's great for engagement anymore. So, you know, email actually can fill that gap. Like, because if you sign up for my email, I can mail you. Like, there's no algorithm that's going to tell me I'm not allowed to mail you. Like, I can mail you. And there's a much more closer, you know, connection with that end user. So definitely seeing that as well. Yeah, and just, you know, simplifying things is sometimes complicated. Like, our first newsletter was really long. And by the way, we still get people that say it's long. But we've got our headline pieces to keep it to under 300 words. 300 words is really short. I mean, that's the length of a average LinkedIn post. You know, then we have some short snippets and some other stuff, but you know, making it shorter is harder because you have to really narrow down and focus on what people will find useful. So yeah, but yeah, lots of learnings. But definitely back email as a way of engagement in the near future that most people would probably want to move to, because of algorithms just limiting the reach.
Yeah. And then tell me, Renier, because it used to be once a week, and over time we decided to go twice a week. I mean, again, we've discussed this on the podcast in other ways, but like, it's a lot of work, right? It's not something that, you know, you read and it's, oh wow, this is so nice, and look at these images and look at this poll, and it's actually a lot of work. You're doing it twice a week. I know it's a bit of a team, but like, what lessons out of that? Maybe just explain to everyone why you went twice a week, and just how you've been able to manage your time when you're trying to juggle so many things.
Yeah, I mean, the newsletter is still a side hustle, so it's 5 a.m. in the morning and after 8 p.m. at night. So I think that was one of the things that was quite attractive for me in starting it, because it was something that you can start as a side hustle and, you know, build it out from there. The twice a week thing really came on newsletter. We used to have 2 stories in a newsletter, and then, you know, we also had this thing called the Builders Corner, which we started building out. We received really good feedback on the Builders Corner, but then it became too long. So, you know, we decided, okay, let's split out the Builders Corner into a second or the one headline piece into a second email. And then also we started doing the podcast, which had some great content on there, and felt like, you know, a lot of people don't necessarily have time to listen to the podcast or engage with all of the content, but, you know, we can feature some of that content in the newsletter and link out to specific parts within the podcast in a second email. So that really just resulted in us having more content. That's the first thing. And you know, it was also a step in a direction of figuring out, you know, if this one day becomes a larger media play, which I do believe it does have the potential to become, chances are we might move to a daily. Now, if you subscribe, don't worry, it won't be the same amount of content. but if you do it daily, you can do it substantially shorter and more, some different things. So doing a second one was kind of a step in the direction of saying, okay, how do we do that? And the reason I found that interesting and thought it's something that we might move to is that both the Morning Brew and the Hustle actually said that when they moved to a daily, their open rates went up substantially and the engagement went up. Now, whether or not that's only an American thing or, it's something that's applicable here, time will tell. But that was a step in that direction. So making it work, I mean, you build workflows and you use Notion and figure out how to do stuff faster, and the WhatsApp group sings Monday and Thursday evenings. But yeah, and I really also think like doing it with other people makes it substantially easier. Like, I never thought I would say this, but writer's block is sometimes real. Yeah.
Renier the journalist.
Yeah. So, when you hit that and you've got some other people that can help out, they can contribute ideas to take it a bit further. That really helps a lot. And doing it with great people is also important. Like this is so cliche, like people say this, but it does make a difference. I mean, I've never heard anyone complain about what we do, neither have I. Like, we've all really enjoyed the journey, even though no one's getting money, and it's all like a public service at the moment. So Correct. It's been fun.
Well, there's two things there in what you're saying. It's passion and fun, right? You're doing it because you had a passion that you started it, and we're all passionate about it, and sharing these stories, giving back to the community, and having fun doing it. And I mean, I think it actually translates to the content that's coming out and why people are resonating. We used to talk about a joke. I mean, it's coming from a good place, a place that understands things, and because you're having fun. And I think that plays a big part.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Renier, I think one of the questions I have is like, just like any startup, any business out there, especially when you start, you have an expectation, you have an understanding of what you want to build, and you have a kind of, this is what it's going to look like. You have this expectation. And then you start doing it and you start realizing like, oh, hold on, this is something else. Have you had that moment, and maybe share an example of when you were like where you thought it was going to be and where it's become?
Yeah, I mean, that's just exactly how business goes, right? I think the only guarantee in business is that stuff's probably not going to work out the way you think it's going to work out. And sometimes it actually works out better, and sometimes, not as great. So, no, that's happened all the time. I think something that has been really complicated for me to figure out is how to do media sales. So obviously we've got this property, and we've got a few ad slots and sponsor opportunities, and we've had some success, but I'm used to selling software or custom software development or other products. I'm not used to selling media sales. So really enjoying engaging brand managers and speaking to marketing people and figuring out how to do that in a way that really drives value for them. And I think that has been one of the latest, most enjoyable journeys, is actually going, okay, who could really benefit from engaging our audience, and at what price point would it make sense for them, or what kind of setup or deal. And it's not for everyone. So it's really about figuring out, how do we find the right people, and how do we work with them. So I did think that it probably would be a bit easier to do media sales. So got a bit of a surprise and go, oh, there's some more nuance here than simply just selling ads.
It's not as straightforward.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, because I mean, it's quite straightforward on Facebook. You just log on there and go run an ad, and people seem to do that. So I thought it would work the same for us, but unfortunately it's not working that way anymore, or at least not now. So that was a learning, and I think early on growth was quite complicated, trying to figure out like how do you grow this, and
quality, right? Because I think that's a conversation we've said a few times. It's one thing to grow a brand, it's one thing to grow a newsletter, but you want to engage with quality people that are kind of the right audience, which is actually really difficult, right? I mean, especially when you go and run, I know you've spoken to me about running a Facebook ad, and then the people that sign up are like asking for jobs, and it's not quite exactly. So it's quite a challenge.
Sending me open letters complaining about government. I'm like, I should have picked a different brand.
That actually leads into my next question I had for you, but carry on.
But no, I think growth was quite interesting. And actually another thing that comes to mind is email is actually not simple. Like once you understand how email filters and all of these things work, like deliverability is almost an art in itself. So I mean, most people here would know that emails can go to junk folder or can go to spam, or even in Gmail, that very nice promotions tab. So emails can land there. And there are some theories and logic and algorithms and understanding of how to get emails to not land there. So, one of the things is if you have low open rates, like chances are your emails will end in spam or promotions, right? Because typically emails that are spam or promotions would have low open rates. So that's how these email filters look at things. So what we do is every month we look at people that haven't opened an email in 3 months, and we pop them a mail and say, hey, do you still want this? And if they don't open or reply to that, then we just take them off the list. So we've actually had 16,000 signups over the course of 20 months. But yeah, we had 10,000 active signups now. And that results in our open rate being in the high 30s and healthy, which gives us the best shot of landing in someone's primary inbox. That's the first thing. So the second thing that influences is people replying to emails. So we constantly have to think about strategies of how do you get people to reply. We're running some giveaways at the moment. We're getting people to reply to the email. So if people reply to emails, email servers see it as, oh, this is a person emailing. It's not a company in the news industry sending you 5 articles of what's on their website. So this is actually an email.
That's a very good insight, I must say.
Yeah, so those things are important. And then clicks. Are people engaging? So we run the poll, and the poll is fun and engaging as content, but it also generates clicks. And if emails get clicks, it also, is good for deliverability. So all of those things add up and make it easier for you to reach people. And that was a big learning how all of that works, and what kind of tricks and things you can do to make sure you get there. It's quite a big step.
Yeah, I'm working in the email space now as well, so I'm also starting to learn actually how interesting this whole thing works. But Renier, I think another thing is writing. Like when you talk about being in the media space, like everybody knows Renier open letter, right? You kind of have to put yourself out there, right? You have to be writing those posts. You have to, you kind of, without wanting to, it's the same for me in the podcast, right? Like you're putting yourself out there. You become this persona, this kind of I don't know what the word is now, it's escaping me, but like it's an image out there that people see in the open space, right? And it's difficult. It's not that easy to put yourself out there. And then you get the people that write you open letters, right? So actually engaging with audience, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, right? So you put yourself out there and then you get some hate mail, let's call it. Like, just tell me about that experience, because sometimes it's hard. You put your heart into a newsletter and then you get something back that you didn't expect, and it's hate or it's something, and then now you have to engage with these people. Can you just tell me about that?
Yeah, so I remember very very early on, we did a post on, I think it was on mobile wallets or SnapScan or Apple Pay or something along of the likes, and I remember mentioning a stat in the newsletter which someone then disagreed with, and then on LinkedIn, like, freaking went keyboard warrior rage on us and saying, how can we report these falsehoods? And I at the moment I really felt like we're doing one of two things: giving him a piece of my mind, or just delete and blocking the guy. And then before I did, I just asked Alvon like how would he do it? And I remember him saying it's like the biggest win you can do in such a situation is actually turn that person into a champion. So see it as a challenge. Like get him to convert and go, okay, let me sign up for your newsletter and check it out, right? So, as I was thinking about this, I'm like, okay, let's embrace the humanness of this whole story. I'm not saying we write every time. We do research, and we actually have opinion, which we share twice a week in the newsletter, and myself on social as well. And just the mere fact that I have opinion doesn't mean I'm right. It's just, it's my opinion. So our standard go-to is actually thanking people for engaging. Right. Thanks for your opinion. Thanks for your perspective. Thanks for this angle. Then stating our side of the story, our view around it, and what why we doing or saying what we did, and then inviting them to re-engage. And I remember that very first person actually ended up signing up and is still a reader today, and that was a big win. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is actually true.
Amazing.
Because if you have bad customer service at a place, like let's say PayPal at the moment is really disappointing me, and they're not making an effort to try and correct it. So it's maybe not a good example. But if PayPal were to go out of their way to do great customer service and make me happy, I'll go tell everyone you should just use PayPal, right? It's the people that are lukewarm that don't really talk about what you do, but it's people who are passionate about things and have an opinion. Like if you engage those people and you just see them for who they are, they're people, right? And they have an opinion, and actually their opinion matters. Maybe not in the sphere, and and people don't think it matters in all spheres, but we love to engage people and understand where they're coming from. And it's sometimes hard because we use generative AI
it's not
images.
As easy as you're making it out.
Yeah, I think that the one I've been engaging the most with is generative AI images, where people would roast me for using them and saying things like "get a real artist" or "can't believe you use images that have mistakes in them." And then I'm like, the first thing that stops that conversation is really saying, have you thought about the fact that the image was intentionally created to have mistakes in, to show that it's AI generated? Because if I create the image that reflects reality so perfectly, I'm misleading people to think that it was actually reality. Like, why would I want to do that? Like, we talk about tech, we talk about generative AI,
That's part of the content, yeah.
It's just what it is. Like, it's supposed to not be perfect. So and then I've had some fun replies on that going, that's an AI bro comment, which I still think it's a compliment to be an AI bro at the moment. But yeah, so it's good fun. I love engaging. I love engaging with people. Like sometimes people also just misunderstand what we wrote, and then we just help them contextualize it. And also love meeting startups. Like I've met the coolest companies. She's like, I've got a list as long as
I like that part of what we do as well.
Got a massive list of startups that I still want to write about, like people reaching out to telling me what they do. So that's really fun.
Yeah, I love
By
that.
the way, there are way
well.
more amazing businesses in South Africa than people realize. Like, I mean, I knew about a lot of them, but starting this, it's just turned out to be, way more than what I think it, than I thought it was.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's just in our South African spirit, right? But Renier, this has been awesome. One last question before we go. What's next? 10,000 subscribers. What's next until 20,000? You spoke about potentially a daily newsletter, but what can people look out for in the coming days, weeks, months?
Yeah, so it's all about really figuring out this audience that we have, like what is value to them, right? I think one of the key things that I picked up from a lot of founders is loneliness. Like, they go like, and not like, I mean, they do have people in their worlds, but sometimes they don't have people that really understand what they're building and the complexities of that, and how all of that works. So that's one of the problems we've identified. And the other one is reach, like being able to, get to in front of their customers. So that's another challenge. And then I think the combination of that is leading to us launching 3 different things. So the first one is we are exploring building a jobs board in the newsletter. So if you want to advertise a job in a startup space, then you can do so through the newsletter. The second one we're doing is we're working on events, which would be very informal, casual. Let's connect. Currently planning Stellenbosch and Cape Town, and soon we'll add Joburg. And then the last thing is we're building a community of founders that are working together to build highly valuable businesses. Now, if you look at some of the things in America, like they focus pretty much on a startup and building a startup to raise funding, or building a startup to IPO. Now, raising funding in South Africa and IPOing in South Africa is kind of like a endangered species. Most companies just want to build profitable businesses, and the nice thing is once you get your revenue up and you get closer to profitability, or once you get profitability, it's much easier to raise funding then. So we want to build a community of people that are building highly valuable businesses, and we're putting together an offering for that, and we're going to launch it first as an exclusive community with, invite only, to test that out and just make sure we can deliver a high amount of value for the people part of the community. And then once that gets going, we'll look to expand that and broaden its horizons. And then within the community, we've got some really fun stuff planned. We're keen to do some excursions, unconferences, if you will, with startup founders to go to nice places in South Africa and maybe even beyond, and build relationships and share and learn along the journey. So that's also coming up. And then also exploring short courses. So a lot of people have been engaging us on specific topics, like sales for startups is like a major thing. Like, all founders need to learn how to sell, but how do you, where do you start? How do you do it? How do you actually practically, make an 100%. Impact in that space? So we're thinking about doing short courses, or we're actually working on doing short courses for founders that can help them with very practical topics such as sales, etc.
Yeah, amazing. That's a lot. It's a lot to consume, a lot of work. You must have a very understanding wife.
She is. She's awesome. And a good team.
There we go. All right, Renier. Well, this was fantastic, and I hope it gave some insights into the world of the open letter and what's happening behind the scenes. So thank you very much for sharing, and I think a congratulations to you and to the team and to everyone here at the Open Letter. And if you haven't subscribed, go look for us. We'll have links everywhere for you to go and follow if you haven't already. And yeah, look forward to engaging with the audience. Renier, thank you very much this morning.
Thanks, Bobby. It was like talking about what we're building, and yeah. See you all an email.
There we go.